Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and we're going to start this video off by talking about a bad habit that Wargaming has had with more than a few ships over the years. So there are two ships in this game right now that were incredibly fun, incredibly excellent ships. They had a variety of ways they could be played, but there were two main ways that either of these two ships could be played. One was in a fun way that may not have been that effective in battle, but it was a fun way to play them. You could put a nice, lovely, fun build on them and play them that way, or you could go with a more meta build and play them in that manner. Unfortunately, Wargaming decided that, well, that wasn't really how these ships were meant to be played, and absolutely gutted their abilities to be played in the more fun way. And those two ships were, of course, the Shikishima and the Siegfried. Both of those ships had really, really nice secondary batteries. The Shikishima, of course, has the 6 Rugamo turrets that are, well, amazing secondary guns. They can pin 30 millimeters of armor. They had good range, and of course, with the old commander skills, excellent accuracy to the point to where you could absolutely melt down any destroyer that dare wandered into your secondary range. And since they could pin 30 millimeters of armor and had, nice fire chances because Japanese shells, they were also pretty solid at dealing with, larger targets, especially like, cruisers and even some of the lightly armored battleships. The Siegfried, of course, had the German secondaries, and you used to, again, be able to build into them very much so with the old commander skills and get their accuracy down to the point to where you basically had a really fast, really fun Gneisenau in a cruiser slot that also had 6 15-inch guns that were still very accurate if you didn't build into them. But of course, as we saw with the Commander rework, Wargaming just kind of yoinked the ability to effectively build into those two ships with that change. Now, the Shikishima, with mode shuffle being a thing, she's kind of getting back in there with the secondary game, and you can play her, as a secondary ship in the mode shuffle mode, because again, those modes are all about close quarters combat. But unfortunately, the Siegfried hasn't really received the same treatment because you can't even build into the secondaries at all anymore. And outside of mode shuffles, secondary Shikishima is unfortunately not that, well, effective. But that's some of the more recent wrongs, if we will, where Wargaming has, done this, kind of removed a playstyle from a ship because for whatever reason, they decide, that's not really how the ship's meant to be played, even though that was kind of part of the ship's thing when it was released. The Shikishima was advertised as having, good, accurate secondary guns before she was released, and the Siegfried was also advertised as, being the Siegfried and having the German secondary guns before she was released as well. And those were both, Shikishima's a still ship, Siegfried's a research bureau ship. You had to heavily invest your time or money into the game to get either of those two ships, and they kind of just, again, changed those overnight. Unfortunately, there haven't been any changes done or announced since then that would restore these two ships back to their former glory. However, what we're talking about today does give me hope that that could be happening in the future, because the main subject of today's video had something very similar happen to it about 4 years ago, and it recently got its mojo back this update as well, and that is the Henri IV, the ship you've been watching in the background for the past couple of minutes. So the Henri IV, very much like with the Siegfried and the Shikishima, Wargaming decided that, well, they didn't like a particular playstyle that many players were using with Henri IV, and that was throttle juking. You see, throttle juking is a very good method to get the enemy team to absolutely waste their shells and their attention span on you. What you do is you go angled in, usually stern into the enemy team, because when you're accelerating, you go faster going forward than you do in reverse, and you just bait them with your angled side. And when you see the enemy team, well, start staring at you and start sending shells your way, you play with your throttle. You see, most random battles players will expect you to, just slam your throttle full ahead, and they'll try to predict that. But you don't go full ahead. You maybe just go 1/4 speed. and they'll take their shot and the shells will whiz on by. And then they'll try to compensate for you going 1/4 speed, and then that's when you slam it into full ahead, right? And you throw off their shells like that. In doing so, you can rack up a lot of potential damage. It's a great thing for your team, because if the enemy team is trying to shoot you, they aren't, well, shooting your team, right? And the Henri IV was naturally a fast ship and had engine boost because, well, it's French, and that's like the whole French tech lines thing. So it was an excellent throttle juker back in the days because of those two factors. And you could very easily drive the enemy team absolutely insane doing this with the Henri IV. Up until the point where Wargaming decided that, you actually shouldn't be able to do that. In an update 9.0, again, over 4 patch cycles ago, they absolutely killed the Henri's throttle juking capabilities. They darn near doubled its acceleration time going forward. Before, it took it 40 seconds to get up to full speed, but after these changes in 9.0, it would take the Henri IV 70 seconds to get up to full speed. That is 10 seconds shy of literally doubling its acceleration time. And in reverse, it was even worse. It only took 20 seconds to get up to full speed in reverse. Now, again, in reverse, you're going a fraction of your full ahead speed, right? But then they tripled the time to 60 seconds. It almost took as long going backwards. That is insane. That is absolutely insane that they almost made the acceleration time for full ahead and full astern the same. That's just nuts to me, sitting here looking at these numbers on screen. So as you can imagine, oh, and of course they changed it, while using the engine boost as well. As you can imagine, you can't really throttle juke that well when it takes you a minute and change to go full ahead. Now, what this actually is battleship acceleration. They gave this cruiser battleship acceleration parameters, which is of course terrible for throttle juking. So just like that, the days of the throttle juking Henri IV were over. Now, of course, Wargaming would say things like, well, it's got other parameters about it. It still has 240mm guns. It still gets the reload booster consumable, right? So there's other things about the ship that make up for the fact that you can't throttle juke anymore. And again, those are things they said with the Siegfried and with the Shikishima, that there's other parameters about these ships that make them strong. And while, yeah, that's true, you just killed, one of the funner ways to play the Henri. Because throttle juking is quite fun. It's a much more active gameplay style than, running around just blasting ships all the time. It's a little bit more engaging, and it's really satisfying when, you're being a real asset to your team and you're racking up, tons and tons and tons of potential damage. Now, it could, of course, still do it, right, especially with the engine boost active, but it wasn't anywhere near as good. And that's how the Henri IV stayed for 4 full patch cycles. And again, that's over 4 full patch cycles, because it's 13.7 right now, right? So for really almost 5 full patch cycles, Henri was in this state. Now, in 11.1, they did give her a little bit of love. They cut 10 seconds off of the acceleration time, so it only took 60 seconds to get to full speed going forwards, and 50 seconds to get to full speed to get to full speed going reverse. So that's a little bit better, but either way, again, up until now, she was in this state. So they haven't fully restored the Henri IV. According to the patch notes, they, quote unquote, let me just, again, full on. Engine parameters improved. They are now similar to those of the majority of cruisers of her tier. So I'm not 100% sure if that means she's back to the way that she was beforehand, like she's full on, the slippery little ship that she was. But after playing her for the B-roll for this video, she's a hell of a lot quicker than she, used to be after they nerfed her. Because Henri IV was a pretty fun ship for me to play back when I unlocked her before they nerfed her acceleration parameters, because throttle juking again is a much more active gameplay style, and I, my little brain ants really like that. And, it was a real buzzkill when they nerfed her like that. But yeah, she feels a hell of a lot better now, and she is, I wouldn't say fully restored, but it feels really close. You gotta remember too, I haven't played the ship in her original state in over 4 years, right? But it definitely feels close at least. So she feels a lot better than she used to be, and yeah, you can throttle juke with her a hell of a lot better now than before. And I do apologize that the background footage isn't anything like amazing. The rounds I had to get you guys B-roll for this video were absolutely terrible. There was a handful of matches where I barely did anything, and I was number like 3 and 4 on my team. Like one match I literally only did 32,000 damage, yet I was number 4 on my team. That that is absolutely terrible. So while it's true that, you know, old school throttle juking Henry was a little bit much, because you could reliably do it from like literally 13 kilometers back in the day. I get that that's a little bit much for, you know, a cruiser the size of Henri IV to just skedaddle on out of here. I get that that's a little bit, you know, a little bit overtuned. But did you really have to go and, you know, double the acceleration time darn near and triple the reverse acceleration time as well? That's kind of insane and exceptionally harsh to the Henry. But yeah, she's in a much better place now. So hopefully, with Wargaming restoring the Henry to her former glory, we'll see this happen with maybe the Siegfried and Shikishima in the future. Because again, just like the Henry, you know, these ships were advertised as having these features, Wargaming. And a lot of us bought these ships for those features. Like, I bought the Siegfried because it has the goofy secondaries. Same with the Shikishima, too. You know, we've all been wanting a high-tier brawling Japanese battleship, and we haven't gotten it yet, you know? So, man, just maybe with these changes coming, we'll see more of these, you know, restorations in the future, if you will. So that's the good news for the Henry. You Henry enjoyers can rejoice once again. Let me know in the comments down below. What other ships, what changes that have happened in the past would you like to see undone here in the future? Because it truly is a much different game now than when a lot of these ships had these big changes back in the day. So definitely, you know, breathing some life into these old ships, I think, is something that Wargaming should definitely be doing in the future. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What ships would you like to see restored to their previous states and all of that jazz? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 60,000 subscribers. We're getting very close to that goal, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, wonderful rest of the week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.